Hello everyone, I'm Ankit and you're watching StudyIQ IAS English. In our today's video, we'll try to talk about the fact why is Bhutan such a special friend of India as against India's other neighbors with whom our relationship has seen many ups and downs. But you not witness this kind of a thing happening with Bhutan. So there must be something that we are doing right with respect to Bhutan that we aren't with respect to others that has made India and Bhutan friendship so stable and so harmonious. So that is what we are going to understand in our today's video. Now the notes that I will be using in this particular session, in case if you want to download them, you can go to this particular Telegram channel called as ATS Live. In this channel, while you're downloading the notes, please do not forget to subscribe to it also. So let us start our today's discussion by understanding why are we talking about Indo-Bhutan relationship today. Now you need to understand Prime Minister Modi was on his official visit to Bhutan and it was concluded just now, that is in today. Now, you need to understand when Prime Minister of India visits a country, this shows India's continuous strength of one of the most successful bilateral partnership, not just in the immediate neighborhood, but with any other country for that matter. So, India's relationship with Bhutan for that matter is so comfortable that it serves as a model which can be implemented with respect to our relations with others. Right. So we'll try to understand why is India's relationship with Bhutan considered as a model relationship. Now, before moving forward, you need to understand where is Bhutan located after all in the first place. Now, Bhutan is a country which is nestled in the bosom of Himalayas and it is sandwiched between two major powers on the region. In the north of Bhutan, there is this country China and its south, it is the country India. Particularly, there are many states in India which borders its boundary with the country Bhutan. That is on the western side of Bhutan, it is the state of Sikkim. In its southwest, it is the state of West Bengal. In its south, it is the state of Assam. And on its east, it is the state of Arunachal Pradesh. So all in all, 4 states of India Union, that is the state of Sikkim, state of West Bengal, state of Assam and state of Arunachal Pradesh are the states which borders Bhutan. Once again, Bhutan is a country which is located in the bosom of Himalayas, sandwiched between two major powers, China and India, right? Now, to move forward, you need to understand why this visit is important. Now, this visit of Prime Minister Modi to Bhutan comes at a time when there is a rapid change going on in the internal politics and internal dynamics of Bhutan. First of all, Bhutan wants to reduce its historic dependence on the resource that is hydropower. And that is why it is trying to diversify again to make its economy more resilient. And to do that, it is expanding its global outreach, interacting with many countries, including Japan and South Korea. Now, at this particular time, when Bhutan is trying to diversify its relationship and economy, India's position remains very important because Prime Minister Modi highlights that India is going to stand behind Bhutan, that yes, it can interact with many powers, but the fulcrum of Bhutan's foreign policy and India's foreign policy for that matter would be each other, right? So it shows India's commitment to its relationship with Bhutan in ensuring security and development of Bhutan. Also, there is a very important aspect of this visit. In this visit, the relics of Buddha, which is from Piparwa, they will be exhibited in various museums and monasteries of Bhutan. And this highlights the civilizational and cultural ties that both of these countries share together, that is based on the religion of Buddhism. So this is why this relationship becomes more important and this visit comes at a very crucial time. Now you need to understand these are the aspects of relationship which expand in our today's video only, so don't need to worry. Now, before understanding the present state of relationship between India and Bhutan, you need to understand what has happened in the past, right? Where or from which area or from which direction has the Indo-Bhutan relationship evolved. Now, this all started in year 1949 and this all started with the Treaty of Friendship which was signed between these two countries. Now, if you read the provisions of Treaty of Friendship between India and Bhutan which was signed in 1949, you'd realize that is not, or it was at that time not a relationship relationship of equal, and it reflected the post-colonial regional geopolitics that was happening at that time. Because India, after it got independent and it got partitioned, India invariably had a larger geographical and economic presence, whereas other neighbors of India, be it Nepal, Bhutan, that time Bangladesh was not there, Sri Lanka, these countries were very small in nature. So India's relationship between these neighbors, which were smaller in nature, reflected what is called as a protectorate model. In this model, India tried to play the role of a big brother and relegated these smaller neighbors to a role of younger brother, right? So if you read the provisions of Treaty of Friendship, first likely the most important provision was that India agreed not to intervene in the domestic political affairs of Bhutan. But when it came to foreign affairs of Bhutan, this Treaty of Friendship mandated Bhutan to be guided by India. So this is what the protectorate model is all about. It is not a relationship of equals, rather this is a relationship of unequals, where one country, India, played the role of a bigger brother, and smaller neighbors like Nepal, like Bhutan, they played a role of a younger brother. But this kind of a protectorate model approach, it became unsustainable as the time passed by, because you need to understand the regional geopolitics was changing. These countries were trying to get more autonomy in their day-to-day decision making as far as foreign affairs are concerned. So this framework or this Treaty of Friendship, particularly this provision guided by India, became unsustainable, because Bhutan wanted to change this model, but it also wanted to ensure that this taking more autonomy with its relationship with India should not come at a cost of conflict or absorption, as we saw with the case of Sikkim. So here in this regard, pragmatism, not on just India's side but on Bhutan's side, also played a very important role. So this treaty became to be amended in the year 2007, that this treaty was modernized to suit the circumstances of the 21st century. So if you realize, this amendment removed the word guided by India clause, and at the same time it also ensured that there would be a mutual respect for independence, sovereignty and territorial integrity of Bhutan. So this kind of an amendment assuaged the concerns that was there with Bhutan. And while doing so, both of these sides committed to each other's security, highlighted that we would prevent use of territory against each other. So the security concerns of both these countries were taken care of, while ensuring that the Bhutan gets required autonomy that was much desired at that time. So this showed reflection of many crucial aspects of the foreign policy. It showed India was strategically confident with its relationship with Bhutan, and Bhutan's political structure showed maturity, that it wanted more autonomy, but they wanted this autonomy not coming at the cost of conflict or stress in relationship with India. So gradually with this amendment, Bhutan's relationship with India shifted from being a protectorate of India to being an equal partner in India's foreign relationship. So from relationship of unequals, this amendment ensured that now the relationship becomes that relationship of equals. Okay. Now let us understand the various pillars of partnership between these two countries. First is the strategic and economic pillars. Now, I need to understand the core of Bhutan's economy is its potential of generation of hydropower and its realization for the same. Hydropower is so crucial for Bhutanese economy that it contributes nearly 1/3 to Bhutan's GDP, and who is the most important buyer of electricity generated in Bhutan? It is none other than India. India wants this electricity at a cheaper cost for development of its northeast region. So here it shows both of these countries need each other. Similarly, many ongoing projects in Bhutan are also financed by India. So this reflects the relationship where both of these parties are mutually benefiting from each other. Also, for a long period of time, India has ensured developmental work that is going to happen in Bhutan. India remains Bhutan's largest trade and development partner, so much so that India has supported Bhutan in its development of education sector, development of ICT, health, rail connectivity, digital infrastructure. The most important contribution India made recently was that UPI, that is Unified Payment Interface, is also live in Bhutan, which is a payment service used by RuPay. Right. So this is how strategic and economic pillars have ensured the continuity of this relationship. But you need to understand, strategic and economic pillars work only when both of these parties are getting equal benefits out of this relationship. So this is something that allows relationship to go forward, but this would not act as a foundation or the base of this relationship. So what is acting as the base of relationship? It is the security cooperation. Now, you need to understand both of these countries now have agreed to jointly manage the border security and intelligence sharing. Now, both of these countries also have a long history where India has provided necessary military training to Bhutanese armed forces, particularly the Bhutani Royal Army and the Royal Bodyguards of Bhutan. So, India, through its Indian military training team, IMTRAT, it is providing training to personnel of Bhutanese armed force. But you need to understand now this relationship is a relationship of equal. So, this is not an Indian Armed Force air base or any military base which is meant for combat operations. Rather, this is just a base which is used by Indian military to train personnel of the Bhutani army. And this strategic and security cooperation between these two countries, it symbolizes that India has a defense responsibility and it still has influence in Bhutan's security affairs. But this also is not acting as a foundation. This is ensured continuity in the relationship. Rather, it is not acting as the foundation. So what is acting as the foundation is the soft power and cultural dimensions. Now I need to understand Bhutan's religion is the religion of Buddhism. And where did Buddhism originate? It originated in none other than our homeland, that is India. So it is this civilization connect based on the religion of Buddhism that has allowed these countries to have a harmonious relationship. Security cooperation, development partnership, trade and hydropower cooperation, these are just things that are meant for cost and benefit, right? But what is keeping this relationship stable, what is keeping this relationship continuous is the underlying soft power and cultural dimensions. So much so that frequent exchanges happen in multiple sectors. Both of these countries have very strong people to people links, and one of the important concepts that Bhutan has given to world, that is the concept of gross national happiness. It resonates with current government's policy of ensuring inclusive growth and development in India. So this is this entire foundation, this principle of harmonious relationship which has allowed this relationship to continue and prosper in the coming future. Now also there are multiple factors that has ensured not souring of the relationship, and this is the political maturity on both of the sides of the border. Now, first kind of political maturity that was not the case in other countries like Nepal or in Sri Lanka or in Bangladesh was lack of political maturity. Now, these countries now all are democracies. What happens in democracies that there are principally two political parties who are sources of power. So what has happened in cases of Nepal, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka is that when one party is in power, they are very comfortable with India's relationship. But when the opposition party comes into power, they have a very anti-India outlook. So India's relationship with Nepal, Sri Lanka and Bangladesh for that matter has become quite volatile. If the party which is amenable to India's interest is in power, the relationship becomes quite comfortable. And if the party who is having an anti-India outlook comes into power in these countries, the relationship went downward. But this is not the case with Bhutan. Primarily because even today, although Bhutan is a democracy, but it is a monarchical democracy where the head of the state of Bhutan is a king. So the earlier king, whose birthday celebrations PM Modi attended today, King Jigme Wangchuk, who is also known as K4, he was the stabilizing factor of the relationship amid multiple developmental and regional shifts that happened in this particular region of South Asia. Now, he left his throne in 2006, and at that time, Bhutan was under the amidst of democratic transition. But when India supported this democratic transition of Bhutan, it allowed all the principal political parties in Bhutan to have a very comfortable relationship with India. So even when a party changes or the political structure of the country changes, it does not become anti-India. And the earlier king's successor, the present king, King Jigme Khesar Wangchuk, K5, he continues to embody this spirit. That is, he wants to deepen democratic and developmental cooperation with India and at the same time maintain a harmonious relationship with India. So what has come out of it is that India has developed a very non-interference approach in domestic politics of Bhutan, and this has allowed both of the countries to get a sense of confidence, to get a sense of security that yes, other party is not going to interfere in our matter. So this is the reason why political stability in Bhutan, maturity on both sides of the border has ensured stability in the relationship, and I can't say the same with respect to Nepal, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, right? Now, This India's close relationship with Bhutan is very important in the outgoing regions and strategic consent. For example, you need to understand Bhutan, it shares its borders with China, and most of it still today are disputed, including one of the key aspects of the region that is located in Chumbi Valley, that is the Doklam Plateau. Now, if you remember in 2017, this was a site of friction between Indian and Chinese army, right? So Bhutan, before solving this border disputes with China, has adopted a very cautious stance. It says that yes, we are going to interact with Beijing in order to solve this border dispute, but it would not come at a cost of Bhutan compromising on its sovereignty. And Bhutan has also made sure that India's strategic interest is not harmed. Why India has a strategic interest in Bhutan's border dispute with China? Because you need to understand India's Siliguri corridor, which is also known as the Chicken's Neck, is in very close vicinity to the Doklam Plateau region of Chumbi Valley. So if China gets a strong foothold in the Doklam Plateau and in the Chumbi Valley region, automatically it would be harmful for the security of Siliguri corridor. So this is why India has a very keen interest in this kind of a deal that might happen between China and Bhutan. Now, India's presence in Bhutan remains vital for its security of not just the Siliguri corridor, but entire northeast region. And therefore, Bhutan's diversification towards other countries, including Japan and South Korea and European partners, although it broadens its global outreach, but at the same time, Bhutan, in order to make India comfortable, has said that India would remain the anchor based on which Bhutan's foreign policy is determined, even with respect to other powers. So this is why this kind of a maturity coming from Bhutan has ensured that the relationship becomes comfortable and remains as comfortable. Now, what did we learn from this discussion? We are doing something right with respect to Bhutan, which we might not be doing right with some other countries. So what is this model of Bhutan, and can we replicate this to other countries? The answer is yes. So let us understand what the lessons we get from this particular relationship. First of all, with the amendment of Treaty of Friendship, we have now seen that the India's relationship with Bhutan has become a relationship of equals. So India recognizes Bhutan's sovereign equality, and this is very crucial when the relationship between the countries, first of all, is asymmetric. You need to understand India's economy, India's geographical expanse is multiple times bigger than that of Bhutan. So automatically this relationship at the outset would become a relationship of equal. So India has to show maturity in order to recognize sovereign equality when they are dealing with small countries. And respect for partners' autonomy, it helps you build trust and it helps you ensure stability in the relationship. Similarly, India is one of the key areas, or India is one of the key partners in ensuring Bhutan's development. But this development that India is providing is Bhutan is not in interest of India's own prerogatives of development. Rather, this is rooted in local priorities of Bhutan. That is, what is Bhutan's most important resource that it can harness? Hydropower. So therefore, India is providing cooperation in hydropower. India is not forcing Bhutan to install thermal power plants, right? Because it is not in Bhutan's interest. So when this kind of a development partnership remains demand driven, not supply driven, this sustains goodwill even in the countries with which you are interacting with. Similarly, the security or the partnership between these two countries in the areas of security is a partnership of equals, where both of these countries ensure joint security interests of the other countries taken care of. For example, not so long ago, terrorist organizations of Northeast like ULFA, they sought refuge in Bhutan. But understanding India's concern, the Bhutan's king himself led the army to expel these extremists back to India, and they were eventually arrested. So how this happened? When both of these countries ensured that if they compromise on the security interest of another, it would sour the relationship, right? Similarly, what is the foundation of the relationship? I told you, it is the cultural aspects of relationship. And when you share certain civilization links with other country, you naturally provide them with some avenues that they can share your civilizational heritage. And India, allowing for relocation and exhibition of the Buddhist relics, it allowed even Bhutan to share this kind of heritage that India has. And this provides a stable structure, stable fulcrum based on which the relationship can be tilted. Now, another aspect of this relationship is that it is quite natural in a very big relationship to have disputes. But you should have the maturity not to let these disputes become a bigger problem. And this is what both of these countries did. Both of these countries, particularly Bhutan, was uncomfortable with the Treaty of Friendship that was signed in 1949, which showed the relationship was primarily a relationship of unequal. So this dispute management rather was managed rather than confronted upon by both of these countries, and it showed you pragmatic handling of boundary issues. Pragmatic handling of any issue for that matter can ensure that the relationship remains stable. It preserves the bilateral relationship, does not sour it. So this is the key areas which we learn from our Bhutan's relationship, that we have to ensure that if the country in front of us is small, we have to provide them with necessary respect. We have to give them the necessary trust. We have to ensure that they are treated with sovereign equality. If any dispute arises, we should have the pragmatism, we should have the enough maturity to solve these disputes, not to make it bigger. And what is the stability that is providing us the relationship? It is our civilizational and cultural aspect, right? And using that, we can ensure that the partnership between the countries remains equal. Okay, so this is our lessons from the Bhutan relationship. Now, what is the broader diplomatic implications that we can have when we are interacting with other countries as compared to Bhutan? Now, I need to understand India's immediate neighborhood, which consists of countries like Maldives, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and even Nepal. We should realize that it is the idea of mutual respect that would ensure, or which would help us overcome the asymmetry in relationship. And this, if we are to have this kind of an approach with other country also, it would strengthen India's policy of neighborhood first policy, right? And this Bhutan's relationship with India, it gives us a template, it gives us a model how to engage with small states, and therefore we should balance our strategic sensitivity and should have a partnership which is based on trust and growth. And therefore, when we are able to interact with our neighborhood countries more, it would help us balance the increased presence of China in the region. Now, China for a long period of time is trying to hire multiple countries and bring them into the fulcrum of Belt and Road Initiative, that is the BRI. But do you know the only country in the South Asian region which has not become a part of BRI? None other than Bhutan. So that is why Bhutan also has the kind of maturity which other country doesn't, and therefore it has allowed the relationship to fulfill and flower, right? So this is what our learning from our today's discussion. So to summarize, India's relationship with Bhutan, or Bhutan model for that matter, it stands as a rare success in the region of South Asia because it is rooted in ideas of trust, mutual respect, as well as cooperation which is pragmatic, not based on cost and benefit. And it demonstrates how should India manage a relationship with an asymmetrical country without demonstrating its dominance, without demonstrating its hegemony, and sustainable development without making that country dependent on us would ensure that the relationship remains harmonious, and it helps you build influence through respect rather than creating pressures on them, right? So this is the conclusion of our today's discussion. Now we are going to solve a very important question, as very similar to the UPSC pattern, but before that I needed to tell you something. Now right now I took a very wider view of India's relationship with Bhutan. But you need to understand there are multiple countries in our neighborhood. So how would you cover all the important aspects of all the important neighbors that India have? Because these are given in your GS paper 2 syllabus, right? One of the easiest way to do that is to take admissions in P2I foundation courses. Now P2I, as the name suggests, it covers everything from prelims to mains to interview, including the IR portions, and not just IR. All the other subjects, history, geography, economy, polity, everything is covered here. Now we are offering batches for students who are looking to give exams in 2027 or in 2028. But before making the payment, you need to remember one very important thing. If you use this code ATS Live, you'll get maximum discounts on all the courses, discounts up to 7,000 rupees, and not on just the P2I foundation courses, but also on optional subjects. So please remember that. Now, a question appeared in 2023 on the borders of Ukraine. So I've changed that question to suit our today's circumstances. Consider the following states. How many of the above states share land borders with Bhutan? Now, Arunachal does, Sikkim does, West Bengal does, Assam does. Meghalaya doesn't. It shares its boundary with Bangladesh. So 4 out of these 5, 4 options are correct. Therefore, option C is your right answer. Okay. So This brings an end to our today's discussion. One more thing you can do, you can try to write this answer, which is exactly on our today's discussion. Try to divide your answer in 3 parts: introduction, body, and conclusion. And do let me know in the Telegram group if you face any problems. And the Telegram group where the notes will be available is this particular channel, ATS Live. If you have problems finding it, you can always scan this QR code. Okay, so let us end this session. We'll have a very good night. We'll see each other again tomorrow.